So, how do you make parks unique in a game that has barely any customization and that you might have been playing for almost 3 years? You can get creative in Jurassic World Evolution with some path art. From the very basics to the advanced level, we're gonna cover it all in today's video so you can make better parks. While you're gonna see me use modded paths in this video, the mods don't affect anything but the color, so everything I'm going to show you applies to unmodded games as well. Now, if you think you can't do elaborate path art or you don't want to do elaborate path art, this is still the video for you because 1, I'm going to show you that you can do elaborate path art if you want to, and 2, path art includes more than just making one big design that you might feel is a waste of space. You can use small elements of path art that add tons of detail to your park overall, making it more realistic, more beautiful, and unique. If you're still a big fan of Jurassic World Evolution like I am, and you're enjoying the challenge of making awesome parks in spite of, let's be honest, some creative limitations in the game, I have a lot of videos on the channel with tips and tricks for my fellow park builders, and I'm always adding more. So check out the channel, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I hope I can pay you back with inspirational content for Jurassic World Evolution. Alright, so path art. If you've been with the channel for a while, you know that I'm kinda known for this in the Jurassic World Evolution community. Going back to my roots, yeah! Path art covers an entire spectrum from super basic to advanced, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to split it in 4 levels: basic, moderate, expert, and artist. For each level, I'm going to show you examples for inspiration and teach you the tricks of the trade. Before we get started, I gotta give shoutouts to the mods I'm using. I'm using 2 path mods. One is the Modern Paths mod by DandyMann, which has been out for a while, and the other is a pretty new Swamp Paths mod by Fletcher from Triclaw Gaming. Absolutely gorgeous mod, and especially the bluish metal path in this mod really inspired me. Both mods are linked down below as always, but again, the tips in this video have nothing to do with mods. You can do exactly the same things as I do in an unmodded game, it's just going to have different colors. Jesus, okay, that took a while, but with all of that out of the way, we are ready to get started with the basic level. Now, basic doesn't mean, oh, I can skip this, I'm not a noob. The basics are essential. Your park is gonna look a hell of a lot better if you apply the basics. Instead of all kinds of noodly paths connecting every building, think about adding some small elements throughout the park. Just little flourishes here and there to make everything look well thought out and designed, rather than being held together by a mess. When in doubt, make a circle or a square and put in a mini garden, or fill in that circle or square with a different path color. This is really basic, but already makes a difference. Making a perfect small circle is really easy, by the way. The path tool helps out. When you pull it out in a curve, it wants to snap to a perfect half circle. I'll show you later in the video how to make a perfect big circle because I know people are still struggling with that. To add a little more detail, you can add a border to your garden or to any pathwork that you're making. Now, speaking of borders, you can use those when you're making extra thick paths. Oh yeah. Like when even the wide path won't do, this is what you do. Instead of one solid color, you can outline it with a different color, or you can add a little inner border. Just leave a small strip open that you fill in later with another color. This becomes really fun to play around with at important buildings. For example, if you're in gallery, you can accent that building by adding a shape to the border. You can add details like this to the path leading up to your park entry or the innovation center, just to give those places extra significance. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you some very important tips for when you're working with the path tool, so be sure to stick around for that. Otherwise, even a simple detail of path art can get messed up and totally defeat the purpose. Moving on to the second level, moderate. I'm going to start by quickly showing you how to make a perfect big circle, because we're gonna need that technique for this level. For a circle, you make a wheel starting with like an asterisk or star. Make a plus sign first and rely on the snap of the path tool for perfect 45-degree angles. Stretch the path as far as it goes. That's your maximum path length, and it'll ensure that all parts of the wheel, all spokes, are the exact same length. When you have 4 lines, add a maximum path in between each. The tool will help, as it will automatically snap precisely to the middle. Then you connect the ends by putting the path tool on the end of your path on the end of a spoke, pointing at a 45-degree angle, and then letting it connect to the nearest point with a curve. Once all of the points are connected, you have a perfect circle. Now, those paths in the middle I call a scaffold. And when you delete the scaffold, you end up with an open circle. You can put a big garden in there, or a building, or even an exhibit. However, if you want to make some moderate level path art, it really helps to leave the scaffold and use it as a guideline for creating a design. Extend the scaffold outward and connect the new points in new and interesting ways. You can play around with this to get unique results that fit your aesthetic. Path art is always easiest when you're not trying to copy anything, but just use the functions of the path tool to play around and add more details. The more details you add, the more complicated it'll look without actually being any more difficult to create. Use the angle snap, use maximum and minimum path lengths, and use standard small circles or squares that are easy to make. By combining multiple things into one design, you'll end up with something interesting and custom that was easy to make but looks difficult, and really all it takes is time and patience. Playing around with this, you can make interesting public squares or large intersections that branch out into your park. Level 3 is Expert. It looks a lot more complicated, but it's not really. It definitely doesn't have to be. For the expert level, you turn these standard shapes into slightly more complicated shapes, like you'll have a square, but instead of straight sides, you'll have concave sides. It helps to either have a reference or your own idea that you're working towards, as opposed to the previous level, where you're kind of just winging it, letting one thing lead to another. I like googling tile patterns. I also find a lot of inspiration in Moroccan and African patterns, as well as art styles like Art Deco. Just Google some things in search of something that you like. You can really apply the theme of your park here. Once you have your reference, you have to be realistic. How are you going to recreate that in the game with the path tool? You might need to leave out or change some details. Then think about how you're going to have the path tool help you as much as possible. Again, by using the standard measurements of minimum and maximum path length, the angle snap, and all of the things that you'll be familiar with at this point. For this design, for example, I started with a square that has 4 sides the length of 4 maximum path lengths. An even number makes it easy to find the perfect center, and you can continue from there. How you convert real-world references to path art made up of minimum and maximum path length and all that sort of stuff is something you gotta figure out for yourself through trial and error. The more you work with the path tool, the better you understand it, and the easier it is to look at a reference and break it down to the basics of the path tool. Once you have that down pat, really anything can become inspiration for path art. But no matter what level you're at, this particular path art can be done by anyone. If you like this design, you can copy my steps to recreate it. Just change the playback speed on the video to slow it down so you can better see what I'm doing. Now, if you don't mute the video before you do that, well, have a laugh, I guess. I've done my fair share of path art on the channel, and I've bundled the videos in a new playlist that you can check out if you're looking for more inspiration on how to use path art in your parks. The playlist is linked in the corner. I recommend you check it out if you're a fan of adding this kind of style to your park, but we still have a little bit to go, including the important tips at the end. The highest level is Artist. At this level, you don't rely on any of the standard path tool functions because the work you're creating will be too complicated to break down into maximum path lengths and 45-degree angles. At this level, you're basically freehand drawing with the path tool. If you feel up to tackling this level, there are some tips. Again, same with Expert, it'll help to either look up a reference or to sketch out your own idea beforehand, so you'll know which overall proportions to aim for. If you need help with those proportions, draw a square around your reference and have a path square in-game as well. It's a little bit of a cheat, but the square reference really helps in not making certain parts of your drawing too big because that'll set all of the proportions off on the wrong foot. And no matter how complicated you intend on making it and how many colors you want to use in the end, just start with an outline in one color first and get the shape right. I've made 2 random designs for the purpose of this video. You can do whatever you want. You're the artist after all at this level. Now, like I said, for all levels, I have some key tips that you really need to take into account when you are working with the path tool, as well as some overall tips for how to best incorporate path art in your parks. Number 1, when using the wide path, which generates flags, think about the orientation of the path and the flags. When you're filling in with wide path, be careful that you don't end up with a complete clutter of flags facing every which way. Always fill in the same direction, so that the flags always face the same direction. You can also minimize the amount of flags by connecting a new path at the point where a flag spawns. Number 2, when filling in, the path might start to clip in an ugly way. I think we're all familiar with this. Keep an eye out for this clipping and note that 99% of the time there is a way to fill in without clipping. You just have to find a different spot to connect the path to. Just look around a little bit without clicking and you can already see where the path will clip and where it won't. Don't be too hasty when you're filling in either. Keep an eye out and make sure that you aren't going to cause any clipping anywhere. Like I said, you'll see it before you click and actually place the path. Since Frontier essentially screwed us over, thanks by the way, by not adding an undo function to the game, it's a lot of work to undo ugly clipping when it happens. The more complicated a design, the bigger the risk of clipping is going to be and the worse it is to fix it. So be careful. Number 3, work one color at a time as much as you can. Don't build things section by section, but create the design as a whole one color at a time. Doing it color by color is your best chance at preventing clipping 100% of the time. Number 4, path art can also be used inside an enclosure to make it look more like an attraction than a natural exhibit. It doesn't always have to be accessible to your guests, and it's actually really cool to see dinosaurs walk over the path. Number 5, use negative space. Leave the center of your big path art open and create a garden or place some decorative water, as I always call it. Just a pond with some foliage, some rocks, stuff like that. Or if the space is big enough, make it an exhibit. That way you keep a natural look and the path art isn't too overpowering and you can make a big design without wasting a ton of space in the middle. Number 6, make sure that there is consistency in your park when it comes to path art. At the end of the day, you are consistently seeing your park from a bird's eye view, so it's easier on the eyes not to have two wildly contrasting styles, like paisley-inspired pattern in one corner and a geometric Art Deco design in another corner. Create a cohesive style by having the path art in your park match each other. Number 7, even though guests can't appreciate your fine work because they're stupid, for the realism of your park, it really helps to give your guests the opportunity to see your path art from an elevated perspective. In a real park, people would want to see these elaborate designs. So run a monorail by it, place your arrival helipad right by it, place a Jurassic World hotel in a way that the balcony gives a view of the path art, or maybe build a viewing platform on top of a hill. Number 8, don't go overboard. That might be rich coming from me, but unless you're doing path art for the sake of it, because you like the process of doing it like I do, Don't cover your entire park in overly complicated, highly contrasting path art. Number 9, rules are meant to be broken. I break my own rules, or rather I don't follow my own tips a lot of the time just because I like doing path art. This video is for inspiration to give you some pointers, but if your creativity takes you elsewhere, go forth into the unknown and just make whatever you think is awesome. Tip number 10, subscribe to the channel. I don't have a 10th tip, but I can't leave it at 9. So yeah, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Jurassic World Evolution content from me, including more path art. If you enjoyed the tips, give this video a thumbs up. I'd also really love to see the path art you can come up with. So if you want to share your hard work, check out my Discord. It is linked below, and you can post your screenshots in the Discord. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, enjoy the game.